Hey, howdy.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
How's everyone doing?
Doing well. Yeah. You, Daniel, how are you?
I thought you were talking to listeners. I was like, I hope everyone's doing fine. You never know if it's somebody's dark hour that they found the show, right? And we're the ones that have to tell them that it's to not give up and wait
Absolutely.
another day. Yeah, at least.
So,
100%.
want to welcome our special guest today, Daniel Stee. He is going to give you an intro, Daniel. He is a modern Renaissance man and a thought leader who, amazingly, is a rocket scientist, has an aerospace engineer degree, a rock climber, singer songwriter, inspirational speaker, podcaster, and a life coach. And his most recent book is Because You Can: How to Succeed Under Difficult Circumstances, Lessons Learned from Climbing Mountains That Have Never Been Climbed. His passion is finding creative solutions to complex problems. And in his most recent podcast that I was listening to this morning, titled How Living Your Purpose Can Change the World Around You, he urged, quote, your purpose is not what you think. Your purpose is to be flexible, evolving, and deeply personal and authentic. Your purpose is to do the thing you feel called to do in this moment, today, right now. What would you do if nothing could hold you back? Now, take one small step. So I know I'm taking a small step to invite you, Daniel, to help us understand mental health well being, distress, and most importantly, to help prevent suicide from lessons learned, that and are continuing to learn as we all are in your life. So,
Well, first I want to give a hats off and kudos to anybody who's listening this or who's thinking about suicide, but clearly they're still here. Just having that thought, I think you're special in that you recognize you need to change. Something needs to change. Like you're not going to go on living your life like a robot, like 90% of people are. Uh, and just, but clearly, if you end your life, then there's not going to be any change on the planet. And I think the most important thing, as Diane said in my most recent podcast, being an engineer and and analyzing what's going on, and if people were all doing what they really want to do, following their heart, I think the whole world would be a happier place. It's those people who realize I'm not following my heart, and I'm not because there's not an easy way, and it's because nobody else is, and I'm supposed to get this job, go to that school, do this, do that because everybody else is, and maybe a little bit you have to survive. You have to get a paycheck, right? But at some point, you're like, no, no, this is what's the point of living? And you're smart because you realized it. Thing is not to end it now. This is the best part, right? You get to do something, whatever you want to do. That's what you need to do to help us all out.
Uh, what about in a circumstance, Daniel, where a person has experienced being put down? They haven't experienced encouragement in their life, or they've been bullied, bullied in their family, at school, even in the workplace. Also,
Yeah, that's a
bullying in
difficult one.
relationships, which we can call abuse. What are
Uh,
your thoughts about that?
well, first to tell you, I've been through it all. I've been bullied. I've been beat up. I mean, seriously assaulted. I've had every kind of trauma you can imagine. Which one do you want to talk about first? There's in my book, because you can. I have a story about an extraction. So it's of a kid that I took climbing, and he just needed to get out of the environment. And so to bowling, I mean, you have to go to school. I mean, me, I just, the ironic thing is there are in society ways to handle this. You go to the principal, you report stuff, you call the police. We have resources. I think ironically, like me getting bullied, for example, I never realized, hey, tell your parents, tell the teacher, did you? And sometimes maybe think they won't believe me or I'll get in trouble. I think at some point, the extraction, find better friends. Uh, Anywho, what was your question again?
So, Daniel, when you were sharing about childhood experiences of being bullied, would you feel comfortable saying a little more specifically what the bullying was about, what people were saying that was cruel, mean, untrue?
First, there's more than one, and I don't know what the psychology behind it would be. Well, you guys would understand if you're a doctor. I would bury it and move on. So, um,
Like it never happened.
What's that?
Like it never happened.
Yeah. Well, I still have the picture of it happening. And so, but for me to tell you the story, I'd probably have to make some stuff up because I remember the picture. I remember getting hit. But to answer your question, what did they say, this or that? I'm going to tell you, I'm such a nice guy that to me, bullies, they pick on the weakest person. And I'm not a small guy, but no matter how many taekwondo or self-defense classes, whatever you did, when I'd be in those classes, instructor would be like, hit me. I'm like, I can't. It comes to mind, though, having said that, I've had several times, not just one or two, where I've saved people's lives because I saw something happening, I stepped in, and I saved them from getting killed. But I really wasn't, going there and kicking butt, so to speak. I was just like, you know what, this is wrong. I've got to stand up. Okay, we'll take one of you, one. But the details, I don't know if the details are really important. It's no reason to, you are better than that. Let's circle back to suicide prevention. Don't get sucked into the drama. Why am I, what should I say this or that? Nothing. You're a perfectly good person. Those people are the problem. Don't try to solve their problems, not your problem. You are, just the fact that you're getting bullied to me means you're somebody special, somebody the world needs to keep here still. We need people like you. So to which maybe that's why I compartmentalize it and just forget about it. Like, I'm not going to get, it is what it is. I'm not going to change and be a mean person. The world doesn't need that. The world doesn't need to be going around and maybe a little self-defense definitely is called for at some point. But then, where does it stop? I'm the kind of person that when it really comes down to, I could like, there's no in between, I'd be like, it really needs to be done. It's not going to be, like, where does the violence stop? Does that help?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking, I'd like to learn more, and I'm going to turn to you, Daniel, and to Kino. As men, right? I can't speak to being a man. I'm not a man, right? What are the, I don't know, challenges in terms of mental health, self-esteem, right? Marching to your own drummer, as it were, from the point of view of being a man, in different cultures.
Well,
what are the obstacles?
Well, actually, that makes me think of, I put myself in the shoes of the kid that did assault me. And I wonder, maybe his father beat him up. Maybe his father ingrained in him, this is how men act. And when you get the chance, if someone looks at you or you can be a bully, do it. And you're like, wow, it's so deeper and more complex than simple bulliness. But it brings us back to, you got to take care of yourself first. To answer your question about being a man, I don't know how to answer that one. I think society is a little misbalanced with the whole man woman persona. In fact, even in terms of leadership, I recently read or somebody explained that it always goes back to this Arnold Schwarzenegger and tough guy for a leader, tough guy for a president, whatever.
Yeah.
Society can't just handle somebody who is a logical thinker and a nice person leading the world. Why is that a problem? You're worried about, as a superpower, well, we'll get hurt or we'll lose our freedom, whatever. What's the logic behind that? It's psychological. It's a psychology almost. Like we look up to the picture, not the actual, what's actually happening. That's a social phenomenon.
It's interesting that linking, which is incorrect, being nice, caring with being weak. Right. Whereas
by being nice,
to have emotional intelligence is a strength.
Yeah, by being nice, I mean you still state your opinion. Like as an engineer, I'll state my opinion. The other day, or a while ago, I had Flat Earth Dave on my podcast, the guy who thinks the world is flat. And the most important thing I wanted out of that show was not to prove or disprove the world's flat or round. It's, can we have a conversation without beating each other up on something that's you think is so crazy and ridiculous, and maybe I do. I'm fascinated by your thought process. You explain to me what you're thinking. It'll lead to me to think, no, I don't think the world's flat, but I had never actually thought about that. I've got this other project going on in my head, this other creative project or work project, or maybe I'm trying to build a rocket, and whatever you just said made me, I know the world's round, but you just made me think of something I could take to my job to build a better rocket, something like that. The problem happens when people get so defensive, and I'm really good at this too. I'm a Taurus, so I'm stubborn, and it's human nature. The moment you hear something you disagree with, to try to revolt and be aggressive. But you could have a nice person, to answer your question, lead the country, for example, a nice, logical person. Soft is different. Being a pushover, that's not what we're talking about. Just not the man figure, the tough guy figure doesn't really, especially in today's technical world. I don't know why. How come we don't have some genius in technology running the country? Not that I don't like Donald Trump, by the way. I'm not getting political at all. We're just talking about the man figure in society, and that's what comes to mind. Be the president of the United States or something like that, or a CEO of a corporation. That's actually a more common example. A lot of the CEOs, they're men, right? Not women. I could never figure that out as a child or in college.
That's called gender bias.
Yeah, my one of my first jobs in engineering, there was a woman, and she got passed over for the job, but I got the job. And at the time, I really didn't know. To be honest, there probably was a smidgen of masculinity or men versus women choice in that whole choice of picking a. I never got it though. I was talking to her nicely afterwards. In the hallway I ran into her, and I'm like, I didn't really get it. So I'm kind of naive in this whole thing. You call me nice guy because I'm just naive. And how do people think like that? And how did I not think like that? Just how did I grow up and not think like that? I kept to my ideology. As my dad would say, you're in your own little world. Well, I got to be in my own little world because this is the world I want to create. If I go into your world, then yeah, I mean, I would probably have ended my life. I can't live like that. I have to make my own world. I have to live like I have to have hope that this is why I say those who are even considering suicide, you're kind of a genius in that you've realized something's broken. Now's the time to stick around and help fix it. We need you.
The definition of being a man has changed, generation to generation. If we look at society, the past generation was all your alphas, the tough guy, we can take on the world. If we look at the current generations and the generations to come, their self-esteem is low. They don't really believe in themselves much. They're willing to take all the punches without giving a punch back. And that's why the suicide rate with men or males generally worldwide is so high. So to define what a man is in 2025 is a difficult one. The world has changed, and even though there's, just to touch on women in tech, even though there's not a lot of women that are loud about what they do, there's plenty of women in tech. We look at the founder of Canva, the founder of Yahoo, there, but they're not as loud as certain individuals such as Elon Musk, not as loud or as controversial. But there's a lot, it's changing. It's really changing. The energies of the world have changed. We've had to bring conspiracy theories into it from 2012 to date. A lot has changed. And then also just to touch on the bullying, you 200% correct. The tough guy at school, and we see it in movies as well. The tough guy at school, 90%, of the time they were getting abused at home. So they come to school and then they take out that frustration on the small guys at school.
Oh, I had just a
That's where
thought,
it is.
Kino, in terms of fixing everything. Remember, I told you I've stood up for I don't know how this is going to go, but I can't watch this. I reminded like herds of animals. Like I can't remember which animal it was. It was not a deer, but something like that. Where if something where they're really getting threatened, if it's just one animal, the group gets together and non-violently confronts the predator. Like you really seriously, you can take us all on. How come, Kino, you don't think that doesn't happen at school more, where people see stuff and everyone doesn't stop and go, hey, that's not okay?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's the solution. And more importantly, if I was the bully, I'd be all of a sudden not afraid of the physical violence and go, I'm a real loser. This whole school doesn't like me. Yeah, dude, you're a loser. Or girl, seriously. This is how this is how you behave. I mean, if more of that happened, like everyone in the hallway, everybody stopped, dead silence. Because usually this bullying stuff's going on in plain sight, right? Most of the time at schools.
People don't care. We live in a selfish world.
Yeah, back to the people who don't care. Because I've been here before, so I've had the experience, and on both sides, I've watched it and I've stepped in and I've been in it. It's like they have the thought. They must have the thought. They just don't take action. They are actually afraid to take action, I think.
Yeah.
Like you watch someone get hurt and you know it's wrong and you're like, is someone going to do something? Is someone going to do something? What could I do? Simple. Stand up and speak the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Stop. Like, go, stop. Yeah, do something. I think that's the hang up, is people just watch and then it's over before they can do anything. And so it's kind of a social responsibility. People, we're on this podcast helping suicide prevention, and people think they're doing stuff to help with suicide prevention. They don't need to have a suicide prevention day. They need to every day pay attention to what's going on and get out of their head. And when they see something, they need to take action. That's how you change the world and help prevent suicide. You do something, not talk about it.
It's like the people that blame the government for everything, We're quick to blame, it's the government's fault. And, we're in the situation because of the government. Okay, get up and actually do something.
Yeah. Well, don't get me started on the government, because, I've written plenty of letters to congressmen, and it was kind of, a waste of time. But
I was thinking, Daniel, about what you said about being social, that in a sense we're social animals, but how do we define being social? Is in the situation you described, they're potentially, let's say somebody's being bullied and I'm watching this happening. Is my first reaction fear? If I stand up, I'm going to be an outcast too, and I'm going to be the next one being attacked by this person. So then it goes into the idea of, in being social, what values are we upholding? In that social hood.
So if one of these animals had stood up, both animals would get killed. It takes the whole herd, the whole tribe, the whole society. Because yes, if you're one person, because I've done it, then you are going to get hurt too. I got hurt. And the other person's still going to get hurt. They just didn't get killed. And nothing's going to really change. So my example, I'm just maybe saving somebody's life, but it's not the ideal example, because there would never have ever been any physical activity if everybody had stood up.
But we can't wait till everybody, right? We have to be able to stand up as individuals too.
Well, maybe it's just thinking outside the box now, because I realize it's difficult to understand how to solve this problem because it's been going on so long. But let's pretend we can do something. Today, I think as a listener, you could go to your principal or your resource at school and say, I want to start an educational campaign to where it's simple as when I see something I don't like, everybody stops and yells stop. Something simple, kind of like if there's a fire, you yell fire or whatever it is, or you yell, if it's rape, you yell rape or police or whatever the word is, the safe word. You could do that with bullying. I'm just thinking outside the box on the fly right now, since we're on this bullying issue so much. And we agree that it can't be one person. It has to be everybody. And then you train people. It's kind of like, not to tangent too much into violence, but at one point when I was in this drama as an adult, I got a handgun because that was actually the police people's suggestion, because I'm a nice guy. And I lived in New Mexico, and there's a lot of bad stuff going on. You just look at the person the wrong way. And to which you have to get trained to reach your gun. If you can't actually, and trust me, when you're really afraid, it's not as easy as reaching for the loaded gun as you think. And in that moment, you get hurt. So I ceased to think that way, by the way. I no longer carry my gun. It's a bad road to go down. Change your mentality.
Of course, your gun was legal. Yes?
Of course. Yeah. Well, I'm working with the actual, this is New Mexico. I'm working with the sheriff. This is what the sheriff says to do.
Okay.
When you call them and go, I feel, I think there's a situation. Is your life in danger? What does that mean at this moment? Yeah. Well, call us when you're about to get, it'll be too late. What should I do? And get a gun. Anywho, that's New Mexico. Back to this situation with teaching, there's bullying going on. We all need to go stop. You need to practice like a fire drill. Actually, this is another idea. Have a mock trial. Get some kid to play the bully. It could be the real bully, even, come to think of it. Who can play the bully? Oh, you're the kid that always bullies people. You play the bully. Now we're all going to have a fire drill, but it's going to be a bully drill where we see you pushing some kid and we go stop. To practice that kind of thing, because unless you practice it and ingrain it in your head, you can't do it unless you practice it. Because when it happens, it's going to happen fast. And if you have to think about it, the moment's going to be gone before you can do anything. And the bully will already bullied somebody, and it'll be too late. Then you'll be back to punishment, which is not the answer, because that doesn't work, right? Punishing bullies doesn't work. You got to stop them when it happens. And then you may even take that down a track further, go, okay, so say this really happened. We all yell stop. We see the bully. Then the counselor takes him in and goes, so because that's going to be traumatic for him, and trying to remember, okay, his family, his parents. Now maybe he might go home and get beat up anyhow, and he can't win. Now he's trying to commit suicide because he's like, I can't win at home. I go to school, I bully people, I lose there. So he or she's going to need some counseling too. Like, okay, we all yelled stop. Why were you doing that? It's not okay. What's going on with you? What's going on at home, or what's going on at here? And then the good kids bring him in to their group. Maybe he thinks he's an outsider and he has to be a bully because this is how his place in the world, which is true, right? Most bullies, after they graduate high school, it's not a great success story, right? And that's not good for society either. Maybe they go to drinking or doing something bad. They keep bullying people. They're not nice people. I see them in the supermarket. They're still the same macho. I got to be mean. That's how I survive. So we need to take care of them too. I always think there's a positive intention behind everything that happens. Government, people, everyone means something. They don't literally get up today and go, how many people can I hurt?
In South Africa, they become police.
Yeah, well, we can easily tangent down that rabbit hole, right? Yeah, that happens in a lot of countries, Mexico.
Biggest bullies out there.
Yeah. Which is an interesting conversation, because you kind of need police who can, but again, you can train people, even nice people, you can train to be police. Because I've always wondered, well, who's gonna really run down those bad guys? Now's the time to quit talking. You got to run down, chase them, and actually handcuff them, and they're gonna want to fight you back. I mean, that's a rough job. Maybe we need some bullies. But no,
Yeah, well, maybe the answer is how to be assertive.
I've
Right?
seen plenty of good police officers, huge respect to them. They have a good head on their shoulders that are not just out to, I want to be a police officer because I want to beat people up. Huge respect for them because they've got both. They've got a good head on their shoulders. They're really good communicators. They know how to communicate in clear, effective ways before it turns to, okay, fine, then I got to take you in, arrest you, whatever, or do this. They're well trained, so they don't. So answer. So Kino, yes, I agree. A lot of police officers in different countries and law enforcement that way, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of good police officers in this country, anyhow, at least, who are respectful.
Returning to school system, I really think that there should be a course about asking for help or the concept of help, right? Um, when help is needed, certain situations,
I mean, if someone's considering suicide.
No, just in general, as a skill in life is to be able to ask for help and also to give help. And I just think that would be fascinating to have a course about that.
Nonviolent communication. Nonviolent communication. There should be. I completely agree. It's lack of communication skills that are the
Although
cause
I
of a
think
lot of
there
problems.
are courses about communication skills, but I don't know, and I'll underscore I don't know whether there's a specific chapter on now let's talk about what it's like to ask for help. What are situations that a person or yourself have needed help with? And did you ask for help or did you not ask for help? And what were the obstacles?
Well, you know what? That's actually you triggered something in me. I have a really hard time asking for help for anything from anybody, and I'm a somewhat good communicator, and there's something about asking for help. I don't know why. Do you have any thoughts on that, Kino? Why it's so hard to ask for help, maybe as a man too?
Pride, ego. If you had to ask a man, it's pride and ego. Also, a woman.
Oh,
pride.
You know what comes to mind, and this is probably parental or something deep long ago. When I ask for help, I feel I owe somebody something. Like no one, like I feel like I'm going to owe them something if I ask for help. Does that make any sense to? Is it just me?
We can add ego. We can add pride. We can add, okay, I owe that person something to the list. It's diverse. It's diverse. But we're also living in a world of reciprocity right now.
The thing about if you're talking about asking for help on suicide, though, I personally think that the reason people don't is because then they'll just go, oh, you're having a bad day, it'll get better, and then you don't get better, so you're afraid to ask because then when you get labeled stereotypical, oh look, that guy is suicidal, and number two, they can't really help you. I think that's just my own experience.
Also depends who you're asking for help, because some people but some people don't listen.
Well, I asked my own dad for help one time. I was like, I can't continue like this. I was in college, working full time, going to school for an engineering degree full time, and I'm like, nobody told me school would be this difficult. You make it sound like you study. I do, and I can't quit working. And I can't go to school. I can't go to school part time for 10 years. This is not how it was told to me. And I go, I don't remember what exactly said it. Basically, Dad, I can't do it. I'm not going to make it. And not having the resources himself and being a man, maybe, but just not knowing what to say, said, yes, you will. He didn't mean like, yes, you will, condescending. He meant it. He didn't know how to respond, like what to do instead. So I basically took it upon myself because Dad didn't do any good. And I was like, well, I'm just going to live out of my car and shower at the YMCA so I can go to school full time and work part time so I don't have to pay rent. found my own solution. So yeah, you got to find your own solution. I appreciate what you do, Diane, but I don't know that whole ask for help. I love your thing. Save it for another day, because what's the rush? Like, why can't it wait? And tomorrow you'll wake up, different thoughts. So, but I don't know. What do you think? What is your idea, Diane, when you say ask for help?
Well, I think that it's essential to ask for help when you're not able. It's a paradox, because I was going to say, when you're not able to help yourself, right? We need to ask others for help, but asking others for help is actually you're giving yourself help, right? Because you're reaching out, right? Like I'm in a bad way. I feel like I have nothing to live for. I feel like, I don't know, I'm not worth living, or nothing is going to help me ever. And part of that thinking is, when a person is in that suicidal state of mind, their thinking gets so constricted, literally.
Oh,
It's
you mean, okay. I think I'm following you. In other words, they can't think of the solution. They need someone to help them go, okay, well, just find another job if you hate your job that much. Or just like me, okay, you don't have the money for your rent, live in your car, man. A lot of people do it these days.
You're right.
It's only temporary.
The problem solving skills are not operational.
Yeah, because they're at that critical point. Yeah, I see.
And they're all, and potentially their only problem solving skill is to say, well, I should end my life. That's going to end the problem, right? However, that's
I think
a permanent.
I think there's another way of looking at that. It's not ending my life to end the problem. It's that there's nothing to look forward to. So what's the point? Because it's not that it's such a problem. It's like, no matter how many problems I solve, there's nothing good to live for. Like, life is not ever going to be wonderful, and I'm not going to be rich. I'm not going to be beautiful. I'm not going to be famous. And I'm not going to have a job I love. I'm not going to have a wife. I'm not going to have any kids.
Maybe also, I can never undo my past. That can also be a factor.
Yeah, I made a wrong decision that changed my whole life for the worst. I shouldn't have done this. I should have done that instead, that voice in your head. And therefore, I'm never going to be the person I should have been, never have the job I should have. So let's just end this. If you believe in the idea, it's all a illusion, like we're all in a make-believe computer program, just end the program. To which I say that the fun part is, now's the time it really starts. Because imagine you're in the program and your character not going as you planned. What if the character just went rogue and just did something completely unexpected, authentic from his heart? This gets me back to my purpose and how I can change everything. Yeah, huge mess. Didn't go as the program thought. I'm going to cut loose of the program altogether. Anything's possible. Your problem comes into your head when you can't let go of not still wanting what you thought you should have had, the direction you thought you should have go, not letting go of that. That's where the problem is, because you can't get there. So what's the point? You have to be open to doing something different, which gets me back to, what do you really want to do? I call it not purpose. Your purpose is, what I want to do next, whatever it is. Write a book, write a song, get a new job, go on a hike, whatever it is, just do it. Because that first step, you do that, then that will open the doors to the path. As soon as you stay locked in your head thinking, how can I get back on the track I was on, and you can't, then you're left with suicide, because you can't.
I love the idea of the hero's journey, or the heroine's journey, where the obstacles in life become like, okay, to be a hero, there have to be obstacles, right? And heroes stumble, but they get up again. And if they get knocked down again, it's how many times you're able to get up again, right? Mm-hmm. The journey is not supposed to be an easy one. right? And there's supposed to be people that are kind of against you, because that's how you strengthen yourself. So I love that imagining of life as a hero's journey. Yeah, what are your thoughts, Kino, about that?
A hero's journey.
Yeah.
Um,
And there are allies along the way, right? Just when you think it's darkest, right? And what do they say? Darkest before the dawn, right? I think that quote narrative, right, as a principle of thinking about one's life can be very helpful. And I also think it can be very true.
Well, when you say darkest before the dawn, I had this thought that, okay, I'm in a bad state. I go to bed and I wake up and things are still the same. And then that's when I get depressed. Only thing's going to change if you do something right now different that you want to do, one little step towards your dream. If it's writing a book, you got to write the first page. If it's climbing a mountain,
or the first word,
the first word, something, draw a picture of the cover. If you do nothing and stay in your head, you're going to wake up tomorrow in the same state. I guarantee it. And when you do something, like you said, on this journey, and then you're not all of a sudden rich and successful. No, it didn't end that way. Stephen King, every day he writes in, at his desk in a dark corner, not because he likes dark and small offices and he's rich and could afford a big one. He doesn't want to be distracted. He knows it's work. It is work. Whatever you do is going to be work. Just because you write a word tomorrow doesn't mean you're going to sell a novel. And if you get sucked into the drama, oh, I'm a failure. Why? Because I'm not a bestseller and next month. Well, it doesn't happen that way. You gotta, it's going to take some work and some time. I think trouble comes in when you get suicidal again because you don't see the instant success. And then that is part of the journey, as you say, Diane. And if you were just successful all of a sudden, here's the ironic thing. As a mountain climber, when we're on top of the mountain, it's over with. There is nothing. It's like winning the Super Bowl after it goes to commercial and the game's over. Tomorrow it's like, what now? We go to another Super Bowl. It's playing the game. That's without having the mindset I'm a loser because I'm not successful yet. Like I haven't won the Super Bowl yet. Well, we're in the playoffs. Like, what are you already thinking? Like we might lose the Super Bowl. Who's going to win a Super Bowl if they start thinking that way before they even get there and play the game? It's all the getting there and playing the game. And I think the suicide comes from when we don't realize that this is just this is just part of the journey. Yeah, the journey. Just be okay with the journey.
Could you say more about that, Daniel, when you just alluded to, so you've now just climbed the mountain, right? And maybe you were hoping, planning, having the discipline to do that for quite a while. And now you're standing on the peak. And then it's like,
if you ask anybody,
how do you
well, Kino, you ever did a big hike, Kino, like a long run, like run a marathon, did a big hike, whatever?
No, not a hike, okay. Not a long run.
When you stand on top, it doesn't make you happy. Standing on top does not all of a sudden, I am happy. You're tired, you did it, you made it. But every memory you have is going to be on the journey of climbing the mountain. Remember, we got lost and we went back and we came back this way and we almost went off a cliff, but we didn't because you grabbed me or you told me watch out. Those are the memories. The memory on top, you can show people pictures, but it's just a picture you smiling on top. Being on top did not make you happy. Doing the stuff in between, which wasn't always happy, struggles up and down, the journey is what really made it worth. Like the journey made it worth doing. If I could land you on top with a helicopter, would you be happy? No, it would not really. Might be like, look, the view is cool. Which gets us back to doing what you want to do, because if you want to do it, write your novel, train to run a marathon, write an app for computer for the computer, go back to school. If you're really doing what you love to do, you're not going to be happy every day because it's a struggle, but you'll be living instead of, there's nothing to live for. You just got to find what you love to do. And I'm not really fond of that slogan because it sounds like, oh, I'm going to love it. Like it's going to be, no, it's just whatever the first thing is you want to do. Like, I mean, it could be something small. It doesn't have to be some big life-changing long-term thing. Like what? So like for me, for example, when I'm an engineer, I told you about my drama being I'm going to have to sleep out of my car because this degree is so important. And yet when the weather gets good, I decide I want to go climb El Capitan, Yosemite. And I want to climb the nose. Most people know the nose because it's that climb that the guy did it who free soloed it without a rope. He's famous now. I climbed El Capitan without a rope. That was the very first big climb I did ever in my whole climbing career. And people are like, why pick the biggest, hardest thing first? Because that's what looks cool. It inspires me. I failed countless times, was scared to death countless times. And one of them, I was late getting back to summer school and work because I wanted to do the climb. But if I hadn't done that climb, it would have stuck with me forever. Like, I really should have done that climb. And even when I was on the climb, before I came down scared, it was a good thing, actually, I came down scared. Because if I kept going, I'd have been late for work and school. Wouldn't have been a good ending. But point is, I do whatever my heart feels I have to do in the moment. Like, I have to do this. I just have to. You just have. Then if you get that feeling, you just have to. And it's, the same thing with my songwriting. Recently, last March, even though I'm in Utah and I'm doing this podcast and I'm rock climbing, like, I think I write good songs. I and everyone's like, you got to go to Nashville. And this doesn't make sense. I'm 20 hours away and I'm renting a place not cheap in a national park and I'm climbing and I'm not rich. I just got in the car and drove and I stayed there a month. How's this all going to work out? Now, the very first person I met as soon as I got there, because I didn't have a place to stay, I didn't have a plan, but I had registered to become a member of the Nashville Songwriters Association, to which they have a building and they have a couch and a lobby. Perfect place to go after a 20-hour drive. I go there, first guy I meet, sitting in the lobby. He's like the chief executive. And I didn't recognize him because he's wearing a sweatshirt and a baseball cap. He's just ultra casual that day, hanging out in the lobby. But he started talking to me about what's a song title of yours, Daniel? A good song title of yours. And I told him, he's like, that's the best song title I've ever heard. So I stayed there for a month. And I came back. But you got to do no matter how ridiculous it seems, well, what's in some degree of safety. I mean, you don't want to jump off a cliff and just quit your job and leave your wife and whatever, that kind of thing. You can definitely ask for help with that, by the way, if that is, if you have a partner or wife, especially if you're a man, that's I think one thing stops a lot of people. They think, oh, my wife or my husband or my family and my kids. I'm reminded of a skier who she went to the big mountains, the Himalayas, to ski, and she'd leave her kids at home, and people are like, well, that's really dangerous. And how are you going to leave your kids? And she's like, my kids want me to go. This is who I am. I climb big mountains. I ski down them. Well, what if something happens? If I didn't do it, what example am I setting for my kids? So you could talk about this stuff with your family and your partners. And often what you think when you think they'd say, no, you can't do that. Stay home. They'd be open to it. It's about time you did that, went skiing, or about time you went to Nashville. Yeah. Okay. Keep in touch.
Reminding me of a quote, but I can't remember who said it, but somebody famous, an author, about the unlived life of the parent, right, can be so detrimental to their child, right? Their unlived life. But of course, you have to put it in balance. I mean, you can't be neglecting your children, right, and running off to climb a mountain. You have to make sure they're a certain age, they can take care of themselves and all that.
Well, Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's dad was an accountant, but Jim Carrey's dad was also a comedian. And Jim Carrey's dad took the accountant route because he's like, I have a family, I get a responsible thing. Gave up the comedian life, and I can't remember. Oh, so it turns out he's living the safe accounting life. He gets laid off, loses his job, downhill completely. That's what motivated Jim to be like, I'm not going to take the safe route. It seems logical, but I'm going to stick with my comedy because look what happened to my dad. He took the safe route, and then he lost his job anyhow.
What would you say, Daniel, to someone who they feel lost? They don't know what they want to do.
Gets perfect.
They don't know
Yeah.
what their interests are or their talents, or maybe so far I don't know, they don't feel they have any talents.
Because they're thinking too big. They're thinking my purpose, my talent is going to be to something huge, like to be a rock star, to be a best-selling author, to be a CEO. They're thinking such that they're going completely off track of, again, what do I feel like doing right now? And if all you want to do is watch Netflix or play video games, then I probably don't have too much advice for you. I mean, although then again, that's what makes you happy, right? Then that's fine. Yeah, just play video games. Maybe maybe give me an example, Diane?
But video games is $1 billion industry. So at times it could be a hobby to people out there, but it's a passion to you and it becomes a career.
Oh, I gave you an
I
example.
don't agree with watching Netflix all day, but
well, I'll give you an example of myself. So I gave up. I played piano in church. They told me I'd be the next Liberace. I didn't know who that was. I had no idea who they're talking about. Liberace, way before my time. But meaning you're so good on the piano and whatnot. But I couldn't see the vision for being a pop artist or something, or Christian music. I didn't have the vision. So I put all that on side completely quick, because back to my engineering, I'm talking about living in my car to get my engineering degree. There's no time for band. So fast forward 10 years later, when I'm a rich engineer and I got time now, I'm like, let me follow that up. So to answer your question, Diane, some people say, no, I don't have any secret dream. I've got nothing that I ever gave up that I didn't want to try. I really don't believe that. There has to be something you wanted to do at one time that's bugging you that you haven't done. And don't use the word purpose, just that's what I'd really like to follow through and see if I want to do it. And then next is, well, how do I start? With the songwriting, the music, it was, I remember some open mics. I had it figured out. I'm like, okay, first I'm gonna learn the bass because that's easier, but only I got it. Like 6 weeks after the bass, I'm at the Blues Jam playing one note. Literally, the band leader's like, Daniel, never leave. Do you play any music, Kino? Kino, do you play guitar, drums, or
no, I don't play any instruments.
Okay. So it's got 4 strings, one note, the same string through the whole song. It worked. When you really show up and you're like, this is who I am. I'm the bass player, and I'd want to change it, to change notes. And he'd look at me, the guitar, like, nope, dude, stay. How did that work? Because it was the root note or whatever. I'm like, okay, but I'm not a bass player. I want to write songs. What's the next thing? Acoustic guitar. I get it. I can't figure out the chords, but not knowing it, I figure out how to tune the guitar to open tuning to where I can play chords with one finger. Next thing you know, I'm going to open mic, and my friend's like, dude, you can't go up there. You don't know what you do. It's part of my plan. I have to start someplace. We're on a compressed timeline now. I don't have 20 years to be a songwriter. I mean, like I'm 30 or whatever, however I'm old, I'm kind of, and if I've got to go open mic. Open mic's where it starts. How can I be anybody if I can't do open mic? And it wasn't really a crash and burn. If you look at the tape, yeah, I'm not a great guitar player, but it's the who you are and authentically showing up and doing what you want to do, and then you inspire people. After that, I noticed on my Facebook there were people, recently going to Nashville, for example. They were actually better, and they belonged to Nashville, and they were like they should be stars. I'm like, I wonder if they saw my Facebook, because they're in California and they haven't been in Nashville forever. Now they're in Nashville because they see me posting my videos. So you inspire people too. You change the world, even if you're not successful, which loops us back to the idea to get rid of bullies, where the whole community is engaging. You get the idea, and you try to do some, and that inspires people to do what they want to do, and especially if they're successful, then you can go back to them for help. Go, you know what? I didn't want to be a songwriter. I'm back to this rocket science thing. Can you help me? And yeah, because now I'm this huge, rock star or CEO of something that I did because you inspired me to do. So that starts with the little stuff. If you think real big, it's like thinking I'm going to climb Mount Everest today when I've never climbed a mountain before. And yeah, you could do that. I climbed El Cap when it was my first thing, but and then fine, go out and try to climb Mount Everest, but do something. First small step.
I especially like what you said, Daniel, about having that vision. I want to experience this, or I want to be that, and then also developing the muscle or discipline that's going. I keep that vision in front of me, right? But it's going to take these efforts to achieve that, right? That I can't I keep the dream alive, but then make the dream real step by step.
Well, to the El Cap thing, because I'm trying to follow your logic, you're giving me too much credit, I think. For the El Cap thing, I also just got in the car. I'm like, first step, I got to drive to Yosemite. And mind you, I'm on a deadline. I got to be back. It's for summer school, else I get dropped out of school and work. Well, I don't have a climbing partner. I drove there without a climbing partner. First stop is the bulletin board. Back in the day, there was no internet to find climbing partners. Found a climbing partner. Call them. I'm making this up as I go along. I expect it not to be easy. I don't let it stop me because I don't know what the next step is once I take the first step. And it's almost like you don't want to know the second step because this is doing something that's never been done. Nobody's done what you're doing right now. Like if we take the example of climbing the mountain has been climbed. You haven't climbed it. So it has never been done. How do you know the exact sequence and how things are going to happen when it's never been done? And you don't want to. That's part of the journey, not just because it's funner that way, not knowing what's going to happen, but because if you expect, let's say I expected when I got there in Yosemite for there to be a note on the board to find a climbing partner, and there wasn't. Now I'd be like, well, it didn't work because I was expecting that. When instead I just go, well, I'll just go to there's got to be somebody around here who wants to climb. I'll just start walking through the campground, look like I'm lost, and wait for someone to tell me, hey, you need some help? Yeah, I need a climb partner. Oh, we know so and so. Sometimes you can't possibly know what the next step's going to be until you start. You should think about what the next step might be. Like you get on the road to drive on the interstate to LA, 10 hours or 20 hours or to Nashville. And you'll probably think, oh, I'm going to stop here and get a hotel, or it's going to take 2 days, but you're not going to know exactly which exit you're going to stop at, exactly when you get tired and want to get off the exit. It's kind of why I don't book hotels. I just wait until the last minute until I'm tired. And honestly, then I just sleep in my car anyhow, because I can't predict exactly what's going to happen, how things are going to unfold.
It's inspiring what you were just sharing about being open to the possibilities of the next step, right? That there will be a resolution in a positive way, right? And that we don't have to be like scripted. It has to be this way. And I like what you said about that I have never climbed that mountain. So it's going to be unique for me how it gets climbed and how I do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
and it takes away the competition between how I'm doing it and how somebody else is doing it. That it takes away like I'm a failure or they're better than me. Or
so
if I'm better than them, they're going to hate me.
Well, the beautiful thing about that is competition's the key word. There's a little competitive nature in everything, but you don't want to compete because, like songwriting, someone's already written that song. So you're playing the same song. You can't compete with that. You got to write your own song. and you think you're not as good, you're not the same. But in your own lane, nobody is like you. And you just have to do it to see that people like you, being your authentic self, doing things your own way. Like if you went to climb the mountain and you climbed it a way no one else had climbed it before, but you got up it, even if it was slow and sloppy and whatever, you would get recognition for. They did it to me. They're like, most people climb El Cap in 2 or 3 days, or some even a couple hours. I was on it for a good 6 days. And people are like, 6 days? I'm like, it became like, no, just because how long it took. I'm like, well, I was failing. And the strategy, and the third time that people told me was, Dan, you're a good climber. You're just slow and careful. In that haul bag, most important thing is water. First thing in the haul bag was a 5-gallon plastic jug of water they were hauling up. It's like, that's what you need. You just need the water to keep you going. And it worked. The higher I got on the mountain, the less people there were, because a lot of them start and fail because they expect they would just climb it in a day or two or a couple hours, because they would hear about people climbing it without a rope, climbing it in record speed, and they thought that's the way to do it. And I'm not that fast, so I'm not going to try. I'll be in people's way, and I want to be in the way. When people caught up to me, I would let them pass. I'm like, whatever you need, I'm just going to stay put, and you can go past me, and I'll, whatever, you can grab my rope, and then I'd be like, how did you guys train for this? Like, how did you learn how to go so fast? But I enjoyed the space too. I enjoyed being on that mountain. I have a partner right now, much younger, and he wants to climb this thing here that hasn't been climbed. And I'm going to climb it myself because he just wants to do it in 2 days, like in and out and fast. And he could do it that fast. He's strong. He's fast. I'm like, I want to take 5 days on it. I want to enjoy it. It's going to be hard. It's going to take me a while and be a bit of suffering. And why just suffer through it so it's done? Then what? So plus I get to do it at my own pace and enjoy it.
Sounds like also you're talking about the power of believing in yourself.
Yeah, that's a tough one, to believe in yourself. What was your question?
Well, I would ask you, what does it mean if you believe in that? What does it mean to believe in yourself?
Well, in climbing the mountain, it would be. Oh, by the way, when I learned to climb, was the worst climber ever. They had to push me up. The easiest climb, was terrified, and nobody wanted to climb with me because of it. And so I'd have to go off on my own and find people to climb with, and then they wouldn't climb with me anymore until I got to be good enough to do my own thing. To believe in yourself, I think it's more, this is what I want to do, I will find a way. That's how you believe in yourself. I mean, you don't have the power yet. You don't have the talent or the skill yet. So it's not like you'd be lying to yourself if you said, I believe in myself. I'm Liberace. I can just play the piano and I haven't had a piano lesson. No, you're not.
No, that's called being delusional.
Or I'm going to climb the mountain without a rope because I believe in myself. Yeah, deadly. Believe in yourself means I will figure out a way. I will figure out a way. This is what I want to do, but it all starts with, this is what you really want to do. Because if it's not what you want to do and it's just an ego, if it's just an ego to be like, look at me, I'm a climber and I'm even going to climb without a rope, you're going to die and you're not going to be happy. So it has to be something you want to do, and then you don't need any talent at all. Talent is completely it's almost a lie. You're born with talent. I mean, if you're born 7 feet tall, you can be a star basketball player easier than if you're 5 foot tall. Yes, that's not talent. That's just physics. But talent, in terms of smarts, brains, whatever, if you want to do something, you can become better at it than someone who, quote, has talent, if it's what you want to do, because you're going to like to do it. It's going to be a struggle. You're going to have to do your homework and study, but you're going to want to do it. So you're going to become better. And you're going to be able to do it. So I think that's believe in yourself, is do the thing you want to do, and I will find a way. Because
how can you tell, Daniel, if a person if I'm on an ego trip, you talked about that earlier. How will I
Yeah.
know if it's just ego or it's truly authentic?
I think that just comes from the heart. It's a simple question to ask yourself. Normally, I say, do not ask yourself why I'm doing this. You do not need to know why your heart, why you want to do something. You don't need to know why I want to climb the mountain. But that would actually help do what you're saying in terms of ego. If I asked myself why and was just because I want to be cool, I want to look cool. Yeah, I one time being a rock climber, mountain climber too. I took up smoking for a little while. Clearly not me, right? Why? That would be ego. I quit soon after when everyone's like, "Dude, that's not you. Why are you doing that?" I'm like, I know. I don't even like it. Well, I thought it'd be cool. It's not me. No. You know, another important thing to remember too is you want to be authentic. Back to writing your own songs. If you're only doing something for ego and to get that kind of recognition, it's probably not really authentic, genuinely authentic, because you wouldn't have to be egotistical and try to be if you were being yourself. Um, I don't think most people who are suicidal are trying to do some egotistical. I think they're just stuck and don't know what they want to do at all. Or depressed, thinking no matter what I do, I'll never be successful. And they're just again thinking too far ahead into the future, not what do I want to do in this moment. Like, you know what? Maybe I should just drive to the mountain because this is what I want to do. That's basically what I did when,
Yeah,
yeah.
what will alleviate the pain I'm feeling right now? And
Hmm.
not that I'm going to kill myself to alleviate the pain, but
Hmm.
if I drink a cup of tea, take a shower, take a nap, call a friend, listen to music, right? In extreme states of distress, it can also be, I've done some reading on this, where they talk about emotionally, the person is like almost like on fire emotionally, right? In fact, they even talk about it to be on fire. That it can be recommended that the person, gets like a bucket of cold water and dips their head in the cold water, and then, not to drown themselves, but to change their physical state.
Hmm.
And it's been shown that that coldness is going to help their body and their emotions kind of
Oh,
calm down, you
one
know?
thing that helps me a lot, and I'm trying to avoid my own, mentioning my, I have bad days. Let's put it that way. Um, Talking to people. So if I'm in a state, I haven't been in that kind of intense state, but when I'm in a state where how would you describe it? Like, my business isn't as bringing me in as much money as I want, or I don't want to do that in my business. And how's this going to work out? And I start to just snowball in my head to go, just like, what's the point? I find it's immediately helpful to go out the door, go to a coffee shop and talk, like say hi. Just say hi to the next person you see. Hello, whoever it is, wherever it is, as soon as possible. Just saying hello to another person, how are you, will take you out of that state. This works for me anyhow. I'm like, I gotta just talk to somebody. I don't know if virtual works as well. I don't really try it as much because that would require too much work getting online. Who can I find on Facebook, whatever. I just, in my small town, I can really run to the coffee shop and it's a small town. There's people I know. And it just breaks my state real fast because immediately you get pulled into what's going on in their world. How's their day going? What's going on? You're going for a hike or you're going to work, whatever. Breaks my state.
I know for myself that if I get into a negative mindset, um, that it really helps for me to write poetry, right? But it's not, Daniel, that I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to write a poem now, and that's not what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's that I may be thinking something, and I might be caught by what I'm saying, like, oh, that's like an interesting phrase that I just said, right? Or
Yes, right. I remember.
let me write
Yeah.
that down. And
Uh-huh.
um, and then then the writer in me is like writing down what my thoughts are.
Mhm.
And then sometimes in doing that, it'll become a poem, or it starts to rhyme, or there's like rhythm in what I'm writing.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden another part of my brain is taking over, and suddenly I'm challenged by what I'm writing, and not so much feeling the upset of what those words on the page in my mind were conveying. Now
Yeah.
it's almost becoming a creative task to express it fully, whatever it might be. And then sometimes in the writing, the ending is quite different than the beginning. It's like there's a resolution. The problem is being addressed and thought about in a new way through the writing.
Yeah, I
So
remember
I'm
some of
less
your.
I'm less likely to go to the coffee shop. I'm more likely
Mhm.
to start writing.
I remember some of your poetry. It is amazing. Some of your lines in there, your thoughts. Yeah, it was really good. Although I also remember, I think I told you that when you were in a really dark state, what you wrote wasn't as good as when you were free flowing. I think when you're in really dark, the statements you're making were so black and white, not true. Like, I'm not good enough, and
Oh yeah. Oh
blah blah.
yes. Yeah.
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 So I could tell you wrote those when you were really in a dark place versus the other way. But you definitely have some good poetry, some good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. So Daniel, any last words of personal experience, inspiration that you'd like to share?
Well, the other interesting, I was just doing this last week because we all tend to doubt ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not rich enough, famous enough. So I thought about, okay, say I was dead. Say you end your life right now. Now pretend you're out of body watching your funeral, even if only a few people show up, and what they would think about you. They would really say, "Wasn't he a great guy? Wasn't he, I liked his book, I've climbed his mountain. That was good." Um, whatever you do in life, the good things people would say about you. I think that flips it around, and that you realize how great a person you are, the good things about you, why you should stay here, why your things are not as bad as you think they are. Like when you put yourself in the eyes of another person, a friend who would see you dead and go, what was the purpose of that? He was a good person, and we needed more good people like that. And then, for me, then I come back and go, yeah, well, life's not always rosy, but um, you know, uh, the world needs good people, good people. So if you take yourself out, uh, and I know if you're one of those, you're a good person. If you're thinking about suicide, it's because you realize the world's kind of broken. But I think the world needs you to stick around, because it's not going to get better if we lose you.
Stay, right? You can make a
Right.
difference,
Yeah.
right? And also, you are a difference, right?
Yeah,
Right
you already
now.
are good enough. Yeah, it's just the tape in your head, the voices you hear that are telling you otherwise.
I was thinking too when you said life isn't always like a rose garden, right? Or it's not always spring and summer. Almost thinking about it in terms of seasons, right? That things will change, feelings change, experiences change. You have to hold on for the next moments to occur. And going back to that idea of reaching out for help, letting
Mm-hmm.
people know, right? And that's
Yep.
a sign of strength to do that and
Yep.
not weakness.
Yep.
So I know that Kino was with us, but he's not with us now.
Mm.
There must have been something going on with his camera, right? I was looking up
Oh.
and it looked like it was getting darker, right, in his
Mm.
corner, right? But I know he joins me in saying, thank you so much, Daniel, right?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate what you do, and I hope this is helpful to. Oh, one last thing. If how did we say it last time? If there's nobody else you can reach out to, call me, and I'm sure Diane would say the same thing. You can call me. Call me. I'll talk to you.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to list your contact information too, right? Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Daniel. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.